Our topic, sleep, proudly presents.
The absence of money doesn't mean you are worthless. What you can't buy with money is your true value. Oprah Winfrey. Welcome. Rest your head on the pillow, close your eyes, and leave this day behind. Let your mind relax. Let your heart grow lighter. Tonight our topic is financial difficulties.
Sometimes life brings a person to such a point that even breathing feels like a luxury. Financial struggles are an invisible enemy that deeply affect not only people's bank accounts but also their emotions, hopes, and relationships. Although money is often described as just a tool, its absence can make even the most basic necessities of life feel out of reach. When someone wakes up in the morning and has no energy to face the daylight, it's not just physical exhaustion, it's often the deep fatigue etched into the soul by economic pressure. Not being able to pay rent, watching bills pile up, being unable to buy a toy for your child, or having to carefully consider every item on a grocery list, these are the small but constant blows that chip away at a person's self-respect. Struggling with financial hardship does not only mean unmet physical needs. It also mentally drains a person. The human mind, constantly haunted by the question, what will happen tomorrow, eventually loses its ability to dream. Making plans for the future, setting goals, or nurturing personal hopes becomes difficult. Financial uncertainty creates a kind of mental imprisonment. A person drowning in credit card debt cannot truly rest, even in sleep. Sleep becomes a temporary escape, but the same dark thoughts return with the morning. This is why financial hardship is not only about what's missing in your pocket but also about the emptiness it creates in your soul. Social pressure adds another heavy burden to these struggles. Someone going through financial hardship often feels ashamed in front of others. There is a constant worry about what people think. Missing birthday parties, not being able to eat out with friends, or enrolling a child in a special course may seem small on the surface, but they leave deep emotional marks that intensify feelings of inadequacy. Constant exposure to images of abundance and comfort on social media only deepens this sense of deprivation. While trying to meet basic needs, being unable to keep up with societal expectations of success and consumption leads to a painful sense of worthlessness. Financial hardship often leads to isolation. Because when people are struggling, they most need to feel understood, yet money is one of the hardest subjects to talk about. Many are ashamed to express their difficulties and sometimes even try to hide them from their loved ones. This need for secrecy increases the feeling of loneliness. The thought no one understands me becomes more frequent. Even in a crowd, one may feel completely alone. Every unspoken problem accumulates, gets heavier, and eventually turns into an emotional burden. This can lead to psychological disorders like depression, anxiety, or panic attacks. Financial difficulties deeply affect marriages, family ties, and friendships. Disagreements about money between spouses can turn into crises of trust. Many marriages falter due to financial reasons. The lack of economic security constantly creates a sense of threat, which may push someone into defensive or aggressive behavior. Yet a stable financial ground is what allows love and understanding to grow. Children within the family are also affected. When basic needs can't be met due to financial shortages, the parent's guilt grows. Becoming a disappointment in the eyes of one's child is perhaps one of the heaviest emotions a mother or father can bear. Financial hardship sometimes brings people to the edge of hopelessness. Struggling in desperation, a person may begin to believe that nothing will ever get better. Surviving with temporary fixes, borrowing money, covering one debt with another, these cycles can steal one's motivation to live. Being unable to find a job, or working and still not making ends meet, or not being able to save anything may give rise to the feeling of "I'm trying for nothing." This weakens the will to keep going. Especially for someone who cannot meet the needs of their family despite all their efforts, this can turn into an existential crisis. Feeling worthless, useless, and inadequate can become a powerful force that breaks a person's connection to life. By nature, people want to produce, contribute, protect their loved ones, and create a sense of presence. But financial hardship hinders these natural drives. Believing that they can't achieve anything through their own efforts slowly eats away at their confidence and self-respect. Gradually becoming more introverted, the person starts to withdraw from the outside world. This negatively impacts personal development, relationships, and future plans. While facing financial hardship, setting aside resources for personal growth, buying a book, attending a course, or participating in mentally stimulating activities often becomes impossible. As a result, the individual begins to lose faith in themselves. A person struggling with financial difficulty often has little energy left for life. Eating becomes a necessity, sleep is disrupted, and the capacity for joy fades. Even small joys in life lose their value because the mind is entirely focused on survival and making it through the day. This lowers the quality of life. A person becomes not only physically but also emotionally exhausted. The need to feel good, to find peace, or to build loving relationships is pushed aside because mental energy is consumed elsewhere. Financial scarcity doesn't just reflect an empty wallet, it deepens the void within the soul. Perhaps the hardest part is that sometimes, despite all efforts, it seems impossible to get out of this situation. The more one tries, the deeper the sense of drowning. Starting over each morning becomes a struggle. Even hoping becomes exhausting, because every hope carries the risk of another disappointment. These feelings are painfully familiar for those who have endured long-term financial difficulties. The phrase "I have no strength left" may have been silently whispered countless times, and yet, somehow, people keep going. Because inside every person, there is a small light that never fully goes out. This light may seem dim at times, but it's the very thing that helps us find our way in the darkest of hours. When someone is trapped in financial hardship, they begin to lose not only their days but also themselves. As the days go by, it's not just the bills that pile up, anxieties increase too, and within the silence, storms rage in the mind. While trying to appear strong to others, you crumble inside. You wake up, but without knowing why, and get dragged along in a cycle of obligation. Sometimes even buying a loaf of bread means calculating what's left in your wallet at the checkout. This is not just poverty, it's also a test of dignity. While trying to preserve their pride, people often suppress their emotions. They can't cry, can't explain, can't share. That repression builds up in the deepest parts of the soul and, over time, consumes a person from within. From the outside, everything might seem normal. A smiling face, a body going to work, a mouth speaking. But inside, there is a vast silence. No one hears that silence. Because financial hardship is invisible. Yet a mind wrestling with thousands of calculations every day grows tired. A mind trying to figure out which debt to pay first, how to cover the child's school expenses, how much to cut back just to make it through the month, begins to forget how to enjoy life. A life built only on getting by eventually starts to carry the soul the same way. And that is not sustainable. At some point, a person breaks down, becomes exhausted, and quietly retreats inward. The most dangerous part of this situation is when a person starts to measure their self-worth by money. The success criteria imposed by society are often equated with economic gain. But success cannot be measured by material return alone. A person is also valuable for the effort they put in to keep a life going, for their patience, resilience, and sense of responsibility. Yet financial pressure can bury all these inner values. You begin to feel like a failure, inadequate, or even useless. But every person who struggles is valuable. No matter how hard it gets, anyone who keeps going one more day without giving up is as strong as a hero. That strength often goes unnoticed, but it echoes in the deepest places. And that strength is the very essence of hope. As you struggle with financial hardship, the colors of life start to fade. The things that once brought joy no longer excite you. Even smiling becomes hard. Because your mind is constantly preoccupied. You search for a reason to be happy, but thinking about the cost of everything makes you question happiness itself. But a person is not just a consumer, they are also a being. These economic conditions, which make us forget the value of simply existing, lead us to question our self-worth. That's why this process should not only be seen as an economic crisis but also as a crisis of identity. When a person forgets their inner value, they don't just become poor, they lose direction. Financial struggles also wear down a person's relationships. Because the sense of trust is damaged. When someone needs financial help, they hesitate to express it. Asking for support is often seen as a sign of weakness. But asking for help is not a weakness, it is a natural part of being human. Sadly, the society we live in has increasingly lost its culture of solidarity. When everyone is buried in their own troubles, it becomes harder to hear another's. And this deepens the feeling of loneliness. A person begins to feel invisible, unheard, and worthless. Yet what a person needs most is to be understood. A heart that feels understood finds strength again. That's why solidarity is not only financial support but also emotional healing. Sometimes the most painful thing is not being able to meet the expectations in your child's eyes. The silence that follows a child's question, "Mom, can we get this?" strikes like a dagger to the heart. In that moment, it is not just an item that is denied, but also a dream that is postponed. This is why financial difficulties affect not only the present but also the future. While trying to give their children a better life, people constantly feel their own shortcomings. Over time, this leads to burnout, chronic fatigue, and psychological distress. So the issue is not just about paying bills, but about mental and emotional health. And when that health deteriorates, it leaves behind a destruction that is even harder to recover from. Eventually, the exhaustion of losing hope settles in. The belief that better days will come begins to fade. Each new day feels like a repetition of the last. And yet, people keep going. Because somewhere deep inside, perhaps hidden in childhood, there is always a seed of hope. Even when forgotten, that seed continues to live. Sometimes it sprouts again with a single word, a smile, or a small act of kindness. That's why what a person needs most in life is even a small ray of hope. And that light sometimes appears in the darkest moments. One must remember that no matter how dense the darkness, a single spark can bring light. Every dark time also carries the potential for light. Financial struggles are painful, exhausting, and often lead to a sense of helplessness, but they can also mark the beginning of reconstruction, of finding new meaning in life, and of discovering inner strength. Without forgetting that everything in life can change, taking the first step often opens the door to healing. What matters in this process is not only restoring financial balance but also rebuilding mental and emotional resilience. Because money is temporary, but a person's belief, perseverance, and power to heal themselves is lasting. That's why the solution lies not just in numbers, but in rewriting the way we live. The first step is awareness. Accepting the reality of financial difficulties is not weakness but courage. Denying or suppressing the situation in our minds often leads to bigger problems. Saying yes, I am struggling right now is actually the first step toward healing. Naming the problem makes it possible to seek solutions. What comes next is to act calmly and with a plan. Panic blinds a person, but a conscious and realistic planning process creates a sense of direction even within problems. Which debts are a priority? What are the monthly expenses? What can be done to increase income? Is it possible to reduce expenses? Honest answers to all these questions draw a new map for the person. Ways to increase income have become much more diverse today compared to before. Beyond traditional job models, earning money online has become quite common. Especially freelancing, creating social media content, selling handmade products, translating, giving online lessons, these options help many individuals find economic relief. At this point, being aware of one's skills is very valuable. Every person definitely has some ability, knowledge, or potential to contribute. The important thing is to recognize that skill and learn to transform it. In this process, patience as well as consistency is essential. Increasing income may not happen immediately, but steady progress creates big changes over time. Managing expenses is also a cornerstone of the solution. Small amounts spent unknowingly in daily life can become a serious burden in the long run. Therefore, keeping a simple but effective spending diary is very helpful for taking control. On which items are unnecessary expenses made? Which subscriptions can be canceled? Which habits cause financial strain? Honest answers to these questions develop both a saving awareness and encourage the individual to review their lifestyle habits. For example, going grocery shopping with a list, following discount periods, and buying in bulk are simple practices that gradually bring significant benefits. Managing debts is one of the most complicated aspects of financial difficulties. However, avoiding debts does not eliminate them, on the contrary, it makes them grow. That is why contacting creditors, offering restructuring proposals, and preparing a payment plan are very important. Many institutions are open to alternative plans for people facing payment difficulties. As long as the person approaches with sincere and open communication. It is also crucial to let go of shame in this process. Debt does not make a person bad. Debt is only a temporary condition. The real issue is managing it. Moreover, consulting professional financial advisors, learning budgeting skills, and debt restructuring techniques ease this process. Emotionally staying strong during this period is even more valuable than the economic struggle. Because when mental health deteriorates, no plan works well. Therefore, it is necessary to seek support and express feelings instead of suppressing them. Talking with close ones, sharing experiences, and if needed, consulting a psychological counselor help lighten the mental burden. It should be remembered that loneliness is the most invisible but also the most deepening element of financial hardship. For this reason, sharing is healing even in its simplest form. Saying "I am going through this too" opens the chance to receive support from others. Maintaining healthy lifestyle habits is also part of the solution process. People experiencing financial difficulties often face problems like insomnia, irregular nutrition, and lack of exercise. Yet, these habits negatively affect overall well-being. Walking for 15 minutes a day, practicing breathing exercises, preparing simple and healthy meals all positively change the mood. Small but consistent practices improve quality of life and rebuild self-confidence. When a person sees they can take good care of themselves, they begin to believe they can cope with other problems as well. Another important point is to avoid the trap of comparison. Social media often does not reflect reality. Looking at others' lives and magnifying one's shortcomings only lowers motivation. Every person's life is different. Everyone has a different challenge. Financial difficulties are not an end but a beginning of transformation. As long as the individual focuses on their own path, sets their own goals, and values even the smallest step. Because success is built not by giant leaps but by steady steps. Not losing the sense of gratitude in this process is also very precious. Realizing what we have creates a mental transformation. Instead of belittling what is in our hands, valuing it, finding things to be thankful for even in this hard process increases inner strength. Because gratitude is not only a religious or moral virtue but also a psychological resilience tool. A grateful person focuses not on what is missing but on what exists. And this focus is the rebuilding of morale. The process of overcoming financial difficulties is not only an economic but also a psychological and spiritual healing journey. One of the strongest supports at this point is regaining faith in oneself. Challenges are deep stones that shape our character. Perhaps the hardest times in life are also the periods that help us grow the most. Therefore, struggling with financial hardship is also struggling with character. The questions we ask ourselves change. What do I really want? What am I fighting for? For whom do I want to stand strong? The answers to these questions help a person hold on to life again. Seeking support is a step that should never be underestimated in the process of healing. No one has to live alone in this world. Family, friends, neighbors, local communities, even sometimes strangers can offer support. Talking openly with a friend, asking for help, even if not financial, but a shoulder to lean on, relieves a heavy burden. Asking for help is not weakness but awareness. Every strong individual was once someone who received help. As long as pride does not stand in the way of our real needs. Because healing often begins with someone else's sincere "I understand you" sentence. Another important element in this process is developing the habit of long-term thinking. Someone facing financial difficulties naturally focuses on short-term solutions because overcoming the moment feels vital. However, merely getting through the day does not bring lasting well-being in the long run. That is why setting goals and making even small future plans develop the person's mindset. For example, living debt-free in a year, not spending except for urgent needs in 3 months, creating an additional income source within 6 months. Plans like these give meaning to the journey. Every day that a person comes closer to these goals increases their self-confidence. One of the biggest traps individuals face during intense financial difficulties is the misleading quick fix options. Covering debt with more debt, turning to risky investments, or trying to get by with high-interest credit cards may offer temporary relief in the short term but can create deeper problems in the long run. That is why financial literacy is a fundamental skill everyone must learn. Understanding interest rates, calculating loan terms and total burdens, learning to budget, and controlling spending are survival strategies. This knowledge not only helps during hard times but also liberates individuals during periods of economic prosperity. Because knowledge is freedom. Similarly, a person's relationship with their belief system takes on a different meaning during these times. Some people hold more tightly to their religious faith, while others find inner balance by spending time in nature or practicing meditation. Whatever path is chosen, what matters is establishing an inner center. This center keeps a person standing even amid storms. Small rituals like praying, giving thanks, going outdoors, quietly reflecting, writing, or simply breathing nourish the strength to stand back up. Creating inner order while struggling with financial difficulties allows one to move forward without being swept away by challenges. Humans live by looking toward the future, not the past. Of course, there may be mistakes made in the past. Wastefulness, unplanned spending, wrong choices, or simply bad luck. But blaming the past constantly will not get you anywhere today. Forgiving yourself is a prerequisite for progress. Everyone makes mistakes, but those who learn from them grow. Instead of carrying the burden of the past, it must be understood and released. Saying I will make different decisions now is the first step toward change. Therefore, rather than living in the shadow of the past, it is better to build a future in the light of today. Another important issue is financial difficulties in families with children. This situation affects not only adults but also directly impacts children. As parents, explaining this process correctly to children is very valuable for protecting their emotional development. Children should be taught patience and sharing, not lack. Because this period is also an opportunity for teaching values. It is not the lack of toys but the time spent together that matters. It is not the absence of luxuries but the communication built with love that counts. Therefore, even amidst financial difficulties, it is possible to create an environment where children feel safe. And this environment often comes not from expensive things but from simple and sincere relationships. Finally, there is a lesson in every hardship. Financial struggles are actually a warning from life. Maybe they show us that we need to live more simply, maybe to be more planned, or maybe to remember again what we truly value. During this process, people feel the worth of what they have more deeply. Money is of course important, but life is not just about money. Human relationships, health, love, productivity, and a sense of meaning are concepts beyond material values. That is why this process is not only a crisis but also an awakening. Financial difficulties do not just break a person but also build them up. As in every phase of life, these hard times will pass too. What remains are the patience you showed, the determination, the dreams you rebuilt, and the life you constructed with your own hands. Remember, financial difficulties are not fate but temporary stops. And every stop is to prepare for the next journey. Just believe in yourself. Because you have the strength to rebuild this life. Sometimes a sunrise can be the beginning of everything. Those dark mornings, the hours when hopes are silenced, the emptiness in our pockets, the tiredness on our faces, they can all pass with time. As long as there is a spark left inside us. That spark can reignite sometimes in a child's smile, sometimes on a friend's shoulder, sometimes in a quiet night alone with yourself. Financial difficulties tire, wear out, and test patience. But at the same time, they are the path to rising again and reaching a stronger self. Remember, this process defines you but does not consume you. It changes you but does not devalue you. Every hardship is like a stone that reveals the gem inside. Maybe right now you still cannot see the way out. Debts have piled up, income has decreased, things have gotten complicated. But every storm has a calm, every winter has a spring. Today, your task is to live these hard times without denial, without fighting them, by turning them into teachers. Because true growth happens in times of crisis. And you will come out of this crisis stronger, more conscious, and more determined. Stop blaming yourself. Carrying past mistakes, wrong choices, or missed precautions as a burden does not gain you anything. Forgive yourself. Because at that moment you did what you thought was best. Now you think differently. This alone is progress. Mistakes are not what define you but what mature you. Be kind to yourself. The thing you need most during this process is compassion for yourself. You deserve to be well. You deserve a stronger, more peaceful, and safer life. And as long as you do not lose your faith, reaching this is possible. Take small steps. You don't need to fix everything at once. Change one habit first. Review your expenses. Keep a budget. Remove excess from your life. Maybe a luxury coffee, maybe an unnecessary subscription, maybe just a non-essential grocery item. Small but conscious changes lead to big transformations over time. Because financial well-being is not just about income but also about behavior. Money management is a reflection of inner discipline. Win a small success today and grow it tomorrow. Appreciate yourself with every achievement. Because the love you show yourself is the strongest medicine in this process. Don't hide the situation you're in. Don't be ashamed because you are not alone on this path. There are millions of people going through similar struggles at the same time as you, but since no one talks about it, you think you are alone. The truth is the strongest people are often those who have struggled the most. Tell a friend, join a support group if needed, seek professional help. The more you share, the lighter the burden. Remember, words split the weight in two while silence adds to its heaviness. We are human even when we are strong. We break even when we are resilient. We get tired, but if we manage to stay humane, every storm will pass. You owe nothing to life. You don't have to catch up with anyone. Don't be fooled by success stories you see on social media. Everyone's life is different with different circumstances. Walk your own path at your own pace. Don't compete with anyone. When you gain peace within yourself, you achieve the greatest victory. Financial struggles sometimes are not just a challenge from the outside world, but a call to face our inner world. They come to show us how strong, patient, and faithful we are, and they go away because no hardship lasts forever. Every fall prepares you to rise again, and you are one of those who knows how to rise. You may not know what will happen from today onward, but you can know this: you are changing. A more careful, more determined, and more resilient you is being born inside. Maybe today you think you hit rock bottom, but maybe this is your springboard, a place where life reshapes you. New skills, new friendships, new paths will emerge with this crisis, as long as you stay open, ready, and hopeful, because hope is the greatest wealth of a human. No one can take it away from you. One day when you look back, you will say, I'm glad I didn't give up. I'm glad I kept going. I'm glad I was patient. And maybe you will guide someone else, because someone who manages to come out of their own darkness becomes a light for others. Maybe the process that hurts you today will inspire someone else tomorrow. So stand up, not only for yourself but for those who come after you, because your story belongs not only to you. This world becomes more beautiful the moments we touch each other. There is a reason this message has reached you. Maybe this is the sentence you need right now. Maybe on a night when you can't silence your heart, these words will be your friend. Remember, even if I don't know you, I understand you, because being human is trying to understand each other. And while writing this, I kept thinking this line is worth everything if it can give hope to even one person. Maybe that person is you. Maybe right now you are the one closest to fixing what's broken inside. Finally, make this promise to yourself: I will start anew every morning. Even if I fall, I will get up. I will exist with my flaws. I will change. I will grow. I will love myself, and I will keep loving life even in its simplest form, because I am here, I am alive, and I still have hope.
If tonight brought you a moment of peace, you can gift that feeling to others too. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Who knows, maybe the next sleep topic will come from you.